Which stocks could double in the next year? We looked at Wall Street opinions on thousands of stocks, and in this video, we'll tell you about 5 names that analysts believe could double or come close to doubling in the next year. And we'll explain why those analysts are so bullish. But first, is it realistic to believe that a stock can double in a year? Keep in mind, we're in a bull market, which means a lot of stocks have had big runs. And if you look last year, there were a number of names that get a lot of attention that doubled in value. Nvidia, Broadcom, Palantir, AppLovin, to name a few. Despite those high flyers, though, it's generally a small amount of the total universe of stocks that can double in a short amount of time, like last year. For example, if you look at the much wider net of stocks, the Wilshire 500, only about 5% of those stocks were able to accomplish it. And if you look at the S&P 500 last year, it was less than 2% of the stocks in that index. Okay, what if you're in a bear market? Well, you can see stocks double in those periods as well. In the last bear market, take Occidental Petroleum as an example. That company benefited from higher oil prices and the fact that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway was buying the stock. But generally speaking, doubling a stock in a bear market is less common. With that said, how did we go about creating this list of stocks that could potentially double in value? Well, we looked through research reports tied to thousands of different companies, and we looked if there were any analysts who felt, based on their 12-month target price, that the stock could rise more than 100%. So that was our starting point. But do keep in mind, when it comes to analysts and their outlooks for stocks, sometimes it can be a bit of a mixed bag. For example, the cannabis industry, which has not had much momentum, and a lot of those stocks have lost value, the target prices that a lot of analysts have for those stocks are still relatively high versus the current value of the stock. In other words, you've got a number of stocks that generally people have been cautious on that these analysts think could double in value over the next year. So you have to be a little bit cautious on the general analyst commentary around stocks. Meanwhile, as we further narrowed our list of stocks, keep in mind that there aren't a lot of analysts who are so bullish that they believe a stock can double in 1 year. So a lot of times it was a single analyst among others who felt that way about the stock. So we decided we would only look at companies where, yes, there was at least one analyst who felt that way, but as a consensus, the analysts were generally bullish on the company, so much so that there were at least 2/3 of the analysts who were recommending the shares. And just one final thing before we get to our list of stocks. I know it's exciting to think about a stock doubling in value in a year's time, but how would you feel if you lost a lot of money in a short amount of time? Because as we put this list of stocks together, there were a couple of characteristics that really stood out. It feels like a volatile group of names, either a name that has a lot of momentum, maybe benefiting from a bull market, or perhaps a stock that lost a lot of momentum and now there's a belief from some of these analysts that the stock could play catch up in a quick way. For a lot of investors, that's not necessarily the recipe for long-term success, but a lot of you asked for a video like this, so we put it together. With that said, a friendly reminder, this is not financial advice. I don't personally own these stocks. These are recommendations from Wall Street analysts. Okay, let's get to the list. Our first stock is MicroStrategy. This is a much talked about stock on Wall Street. Yes, they have a legacy software business, but it's all about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin holdings that they have been amassing over the last few years. You could argue MicroStrategy in a lot of ways trades like a cryptocurrency. It's coming off a huge year, and the analysts overall like this company. It doesn't get a lot of coverage on Wall Street, not as much as you might think for a company that we talk about so much, but most of the analysts are quite bullish, including the research firm Benchmark, which thinks a doubling of the stock even after the run-up is possible. That's based on their sum of the parts analysis of the business, which they're basing on the future value of the company's Bitcoin holdings and the rest of its business. I will, as a disclosure, mention that Benchmark's investment banking team has done some business for MicroStrategy in the past. Our next stock is Viking Therapeutics. This is a San Diego-based biotech company, and it is focusing on one of the hottest markets in the world, weight loss drugs. And I know that's a competitive market with some established players, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, but Goldman Sachs expects this market to keep growing to around $100 billion by 2030, and it's an evolving market. For example, there's a lot of talk about pill forms of these weight loss drugs, or being able to take less dosages of these drugs, maybe monthly instead of weekly. Well, Viking is working on all of those possibilities right now. And some of the analysts who cover this company think at a certain point, maybe Viking will be a takeover target if one of the other big drug makers wants to compete more aggressively with the likes of Lilly or Novo Nordisk. Keep in mind, though, that excitement has already fueled the company to a multi-billion-dollar valuation before it even generated sales. So if there are any hiccups with drug trials or manufacturing or what rivals are up to, that could create volatility in the stock. That being said, with roughly 15 analysts covering this company, it is unique to see about 80% of them who believe that this stock could double over time. Our next stock is the energy drink maker Celsius, which is competing quite aggressively with the likes of Red Bull and Monster and had really been enjoying a huge wave of growth. But by the middle of last year, there were concerns about the rate of growth and the stock started to lose value. The main distributor of this product in the United States, PepsiCo, which has also given Celsius a lift, said that they were reducing some of their inventory. That did not sit well with investors. But despite all that, most of the analysts who cover this company remain bullish. About 3/4 of them are recommending the shares. And then one firm in particular, Ladenburg Thalmann, is very bullish, suggesting based on their price target that the stock could see roughly a doubling, just based on the idea that this company will continue to grow share. I will point out they were bullish last year and that did not pay off for investors. So we'll see what happens in 2025. Our next stock is MongoDB. This is a database software company. It's coming off a rough stretch for its stock in 2024. One concern, industry competition. Another concern, the longtime chief financial officer is transitioning out of the company. But overall, analysts are still pretty bullish, and none more so than Arete Research, which has been very upbeat on the stock outlook. Even though no analysts are as bullish as that firm amongst those who cover it, more than 80% of the street is still recommending this stock. They think some of the sell-off we saw last year was overblown, and they do think that there will be some AI benefits for the business over the long term. And our last stock is Caesars. Now, this stock had a rough 2024, and remember I talked earlier about how if a stock's under pressure and those analyst target prices stay where they were or maybe don't come down as much, it can look like there's a big opportunity, but is there an opportunity? Now, Morningstar's rating would suggest they see a possible doubling of this stock, but this is why we decided to only select companies where if there's a standout analyst call, that the group overall has to be bullish on the company. And that is true in the case of Caesars. Currently, more than 2/3 of the analysts who cover the company are recommending it. What would have to go well in 2025 for Caesars to be successful? Well, obviously, performance on the Las Vegas Strip, because they also own Harrah's and the Flamingo in Paris and Planet Hollywood. Continued growth for their digital business would also be key. It is worth pointing out that the activist investor Carl Icahn owns a stake in the company, so he generally gets impatient if stock performance doesn't come, so that could be another catalyst for those shares. All right, that is our list of stocks that some analysts believe could potentially double in value over the next year. A reminder, those are investment research firm views, not my own. And another reminder that you don't have to hit home runs overnight to be a successful long-term investor. Thanks for watching. Thanks to MarketLabNewsletter.com for our graphics. What stocks do you think could climb in 2025? Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next investing video. See you next time.